So I said to Dan, what do you want to talk about at the top of the show? And he said, Paddy McCourt.
Paddy McCourt. Well,
Paddy McCourt, he said.
The Mercurial.
Well, I was writing about Paddy McCourt today, and actually Halloween in Derry is a big thing, a huge thing in Derry actually, and like Paddy McCourt is like the Derry Pele, as he was known at the time. But Paddy McCourt, when I asked you, I said, Joe, have you ever seen Paddy McCourt play?
And I said, I've never watched a full 90 minutes. Paddy McCourt pops up on my phone whenever he scored a ridiculous goal again.
And that's how you'll remember him.
Yes, I suppose so, yes.
Yeah. No, because Paddy McCourt, well, the context is that Paddy McCourt is playing his last game as a senior footballer on Friday. He's playing for Finn Harps in the promotion relegation playoff. And they're 1-0 up from the first leg. He scored a penalty, which is the least Paddy McCourt goal of all time, you know, sort of stroking in a penalty. And yeah, after that, he's retiring. He's actually already taken up a job as the head of the Derry City Youth Academy, so he is going to be involved in football going forward. But I was just making the point, and I was making the point in the piece today, that really, like, it's an experience to have gone and watched Paddy McCourt play, and I'm glad that I did. Really, ultimately, that I think in terms of the last sort of 20 years, in terms of players who are just entertaining, who are just brilliant to watch, who sort of inspire you to sort of watch and like football, he's up there. And sometimes doesn't get mentioned. I think it's probably because he played his international football for Northern Ireland, that when people talk about, you know, the League of Ireland players, you know, it's a common debate, and everyone go, Kevin Doyle and Seamus Coleman and James McLean and whoever. McCourt sort of tends to just get forgotten sometimes. Yeah. When actually, if you speak to a lot of the lads from that era, you know, particularly sort of the mid 2000s and stuff, and you know, who was the best you played against, McCourt's name is the one that comes up again and again and again, and just an unbelievable natural talent. For people who haven't seen any of his goals, I think a lot of people out there will, and there'll be fans of Celtic where he was an absolutely sort of cult hero figure, but an amazingly gifted footballer who just did incredible things with the ball. And that, to me, that was the point of the piece today, that's his legacy. I think, you know, you could argue he could have done more. There's no doubt that's the case.
And why didn't he?
Doesn't matter that much that he didn't. Yeah, it's a good point. He has spoken honestly about it, that I think when he was younger, his lifestyle, his attitude probably wasn't the best, and he would have been at clubs where there was probably social activity was a big part of it, and he was probably susceptible to that. And I mean, I've watched him speak about this at length in an interview he did with a podcast, actually, a sort of video podcast in Scotland. Very honest about his own limitations and his in terms of like his aptitude and so on. And you know, there was always these comparisons to how he went by players with sort of George Best and all this, and people say, yeah, he's out and about town as well too, isn't he? But he went to Celtic, and Gordon Strachan was the manager there, and I think he probably, you know, took a dim view of some sides of his I guess his day-to-day approach to work, and maybe he wasn't maybe a Strachan player in some ways. Yet the fans loved him because you pay your whatever it is, you know, your €15, your 20 sterling, or whatever it is to go into a ground and to watch a game. I mean, I heard you speaking about going to the Preston, Rotherham, or whatever at the weekend. That you love that player when he gets on the ball.
Imagining football to be.
Yeah, when he gets on the ball, that hum in the crowd. It's like something's going to happen.
Might happen, yeah.
Something might happen now.
To chart his career, so he went over to Rochdale young. So 01 to 05 was at Rochdale, back to Shamrock Rovers. 3 years at Derry City where he played very well. Yeah,
he had 6 months at Rovers where Rovers were all over the shop. They got relegated. They were relegated that year. I think he spoke at length in that part about how it was the best weekend of his life. He played football on Friday and then on the sauce Saturday, Sunday. And it was he was in a house with 6 other lads in Dublin, including some interesting characters, so it was a great time for him.
Okay.
But then Derry City, where they had a very good European run under Stephen Kenny.
You were saying Stephen Kenny wrote him a letter.
Yeah, at one point Stephen Kenny, in his own sort of man management style, decided the best way to try and communicate to McCourt was to write him a 2-page letter, just to
about his behaviour after the pitch.
Well, just to say some things he could change, you know. McCourt didn't go into much more detail than that, but some things he could change with a view to I don't know, developing on your potential. And he played some excellent football there. So at Derry, he was about to join West Brom, who I'm fairly sure were in the Premier League at the time, or certainly they were in that yo-yo phase where they were Premier League club. And he was in the West Brom training ground,
right.
Or as he said himself in the interview, in a pub across from it, when he got a phone call from Celtic to say that Celtic were interested in him, or a phone call from his agent to say that Celtic were interested in him. and there was an emotional pull and maybe a better deal or whatever, and all of a sudden he went to Celtic. So I mean, again, is it a sliding doors thing? What if he'd played in the Premier League? But what team might have trusted him to play in the free role that maybe he might have needed at times? I know he had this luxury reputation, which I think he would dispute, because he would argue he would track back and do his work. But I guess he was one of these special players that, if you have him in your team, you probably need to make some adjustments to let him do his thing.
And how did he do in his 5 years at Celtic?
Well,
see, I was just looking there. We went down a rabbit hole of montages of his goals, which are hilarious. The one for Shamrock Rovers and the second one.
The ones against Bray, yeah. I remember
each
that.
time Trevor Molloy turns around like he's seen a ghost. Just can't. What am I seeing here? It's brilliant.
A freak,
it's just great. He puts his hands on his head as if as he's watching the goal happen.
Real, yeah.
It's fantastic. Looking at the Celtic goals, like, it'd be wrong to say flat track bully, but I was saying, what's his defining goal? Has he run the pitch here in a big Champions League game or done anything like that? And less so. Now, obviously, nobody runs the pitch at Champions League level, really, unless you're Messi. So it's probably an unfair question. But you take my point.
No, I take your point, and particularly if you're playing for Celtic in the Champions League, there's a fair chance he might be the underdog figure in quite a few of the elite games.
What he does is he makes defenders look really, really bad. And what I just need to know is, are these defenders usually really, really bad?
No, he's done, he can do good things against good, competent, players and made them look silly as a matter of course. I don't know, I'm not an ardent, I'm not a Celtic fan at all, so I haven't followed, we're speaking to Enda outside who's a Celtic fan and just thinks, what a legend.
But he thinks they're all legends.
Well, okay, that's a flaw, it's a character flaw. But I think the way I sort of would phrase it, that it seemed like in a certain big games he'd be like the number 12. He might have been like the Wes figure in a different way. That people would say, well, why isn't he playing more? And there certainly was this thing with Strachan that I'm not sure if he just fully
like the cut of his jib.
Well, no, I'm not sure if he just really believed in him.
Wasn't sure where he could fit in.
To be the central figure. And I guess Celtic would have had good players as well around that time. They were still pretty good. I think it was Nakamura have been there. I'm trying to think as my crossover right.
Nakamura was there.
Enda will correct me on that, but he's shaking the yes.
Well, either way, your point is this Friday is the last time to see Paddy McCourt, obviously, for Finn Harps. One other question. 2002 is when he made his debut for Northern Ireland.
Sammy McIlroy captain.
Okay, so just 18 caps for Northern Ireland.
And there was a sadness towards the end that he actually, under Michael O'Neill, who actually sort of found room to play him and to his credit did that, and then I think he would have been in the Euro 2016 squad, but his wife suffered a brain tumour, so he had to sort of come home and treat her, and that led to him coming home and effectively being part-time for the last couple of years in his career. But 18 caps. There was a long gap between the first one and the second one. He was capped at the age of 18 when he was at Rochdale. I think the first ever player from Rochdale to play international football against the Spain team that was going to the 2002 World Cup to play Ireland. So I think Raúl was on the pitch and a few other legends like that. And you wonder, is he one of those that in a different time would he have been courted by the Republic of Ireland?
I was just going to say Paddy McCourt from Derry may have played for Ireland.
You wonder. I definitely think it's hard to understand why he wasn't capped when he was at Derry City. But then again, would there be people in Derry who would have a view on why that might have been? I don't know. But it took a while for him to really get the recognition at international level that maybe he deserved more caps. I think there's probably no argument, but he could have done more. But my argument is you can obsess about legacy and contextualising it too much. But he did brilliant things that made people like football. So I sort of think.
So you're saying I'm wrong to say where did it all go wrong?
I don't think it's a where did it all go wrong. It's like thanks for those times you made it right. You know what I mean? And I think you've mentioned the Paddy McCourt story. People will respond positively rather than go, Paddy McCourt. I think it's like Paddy McCourt. Brilliant.
Yeah. He brought joy.
That is true. It's a bit schmaltzy, Joe, but it sort of is.
That is
the case. That is the case. You said the Preston Rotherham game was a bit dull. If you had a Paddy McCourt figure, you might have had a moment to take away from it.
Amen. No, it's true.
And he's got a rare thing in the League of Ireland where he's basically universally liked for the most part. Like most players would love that kind of player in their team. And when he came back to Ireland for that brief stint towards the end.
They're a snipey bunch, League of Ireland fans.
The hair,
there we go.
They always have a problem with something. They have a problem with something somewhere. Paddy McCourt, one of those rare things that they don't have a problem with.
Football man Joe, he's going to games now. Even with his even his hair, his distinctive style as well. Probably that was also part of the thing. If he was a sort of a crew cut figure, I don't know. Would have had the same.
Joe
magic.
would have liked him then.
Yeah, straight lace,
good
straight
solid
lace.
haircut there.
Joe likes the Johnny Unitas figure. He can cut your some haircut. You can cut.
Play a game of golf with him at some stage, maybe. You know,
That's exactly what.
That's
How would he
like.
look in a bit of a V-neck kind of Pringle jumper?